Hello everyone and welcome back to This Is Real Life. I'm your host Sheri, and on today's Real Life Friday video, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. So, if you have been a long time subscriber, you've noticed that when I started the channel, I lived in one house, and today I live in a completely different house. Now, I tend to be a very private person, and I like to respect the privacy of others. So without going into too much detail, I'm sure you have already assumed that I was married for 25 years and now I'm not. So just to touch on that just a little bit, from what I gather and what I have been told by friends that have gone through divorce, mine was actually pretty smooth. There's no hard feelings between either of us. We still get along, we still talk to each other, all that sort of stuff. We just aren't married anymore and we don't live together anymore. But it is difficult when you have been with someone more than half your life and now they're not in your life anymore. And everything that you once knew is not that way. So I just wanted to have a chat. I feel like me being private and keeping to myself and, things that are going on with me personally, while I don't think I need to put everything out on the internet, I do think that there are some topics that I could touch on that might be beneficial to some of you. Maybe some of you are going through things and you're finding yourself alone or even, lonely, and maybe how I am coping with that will help you as well. Maybe you can relate. Maybe my situation might be very similar to your situation. So again, without going into a lot of detail of why I am no longer married, just really out of respect for Davis and my ex-husband, just know that as far as divorces go, it was pretty good. That's all I can say. It was pretty good. However, I have never in my life ever lived alone. I am 50 years old and I have never, ever lived alone. And that's what we're gonna talk about on today's Real Life Friday video. Like the transition process and how it's been for me. Do I get lonely? What do I do if I do get lonely? So I will give you a little bit of backstory. I lived with my parents my entire life. Then I started dating my ex-husband when I was 18, I think. And before then, I had only had one other boyfriend in high school. Alex is my very first boyfriend. After that, after I got out of high school, I went on a couple of dates. I by no means was a dater. And then met my ex-husband at work. We worked at the same place. We got engaged about a year after we met. We were engaged for 2 years simply because I wanted to be able to drink at my own wedding. So I wanted to wait until I was 21 to get married. Now, getting married at 21, people do it all the time. I did it. It wasn't like a shotgun wedding. I wasn't pregnant or anything. It was just we wanted to get married. So I went right from living with my mom to living with a boy. I know, that did take some getting used to. We lived together obviously ever since. So when we first started living together, oh my gosh, we lived in this shitty ass condo that actually his parents owned, but we still paid them rent, barely making any money. But I look back fondly at those days. We were poor and we knew we were poor, but very little responsibility, just living it up. As long as we could pay rent, pay PG&E, and make our car payment, we were good. We didn't even really care about what groceries are we gonna buy. If it was Top Ramen all the time, it was Top Ramen all the time. And even though we were not making very much money at all, it was such a fun time. Just not a care in the world, no real responsibilities, just having fun being poor. I'd never lived on my own before. I had no furniture to bring to the situation. I had my twin bed, my dresser and a desk, and that was it. No furniture, no couch, no nothing. And we went to Sears, and they had this special, like 8 pieces for $800, which we had to put on credit. And it was like a couch, a love seat, 2 end tables, a coffee table, and 2 lamps. We bought that and we thought, look at us, we have furniture, this is so amazing. So lived in that condo for a while. Like I was in that condo when I was cheering for the Niners. I stopped cheering for the Niners because we decided that we wanted to have kids, or a kid in this case. When I got pregnant with Davis, we moved into a nicer condo. It was so nice. After that, we purchased our very first house. We lived in that house for about 3 years, and then we moved into the house you would know, the house that I was always in when I started my YouTube channel. Now, that house was like the dream of all dream houses. That was gonna be our forever house. We were never gonna move. We lived there for like 18 years, I think. I loved that house. I loved the neighborhood. I loved all my neighbors. You know, a middle to upper class neighborhood, even though I wouldn't consider us upper class at all. I always tease that we snuck into that neighborhood. We were like the one of the very first people that lived in that neighborhood. We moved in like right when they were building that neighborhood out. I loved that house. I really did. I loved everything about it. I mean, to this day, I still miss my across the street neighbors. I miss a lot of stuff about that house and that area. So having to let all of that go and start from scratch, you know, find some place to live by myself that I felt safe enough in, that was very, very, very difficult. Also, just the fact I went from like a 2-income family to a 1-income family, and that was hard enough as it was. Like trying to find a house that I could afford on my own, that was tough. And I think the biggest transition for me, the hardest thing for me, was everything in my price range was not in an area where I was used to growing up or where I was used to living. I mean, even as a kid, I lived in a very nice neighborhood. All through growing up and being married, I lived in a very nice neighborhood in a very nice house, and I was very lucky in that way. And so trying to find something that was in my price range that I could afford on my own that wasn't in a horrible neighborhood was very difficult. This neighborhood, I always tease you guys, it's not the best neighborhood. There's not like drive-by or anything every day. There's never a drive-by, but it's like, I've expressed this before, everything around me is not as nice. It's just definitely not as nice. You know, going to the Starbucks, I am confronted with homeless people, going to the grocery store. It's just not as nice. Like my street, very nice. I do love these neighbors. That neighbor, this neighbor, my couple neighbors down the street, they're super, super sweet. But this is also a neighborhood where not a lot of people take a lot of pride in their yards. I do have some people that park their car on the lawn, and that's just something I was never around growing up or being married. I was never around that. So that was really hard for me. And even still, it's hard for me to wrap my head around. It's hard for me to get used to. So there was a transition period when we sold that house, but neither one of us could. We had such a hard time, each of us finding a place to live. And that's why I lived with teacher Jen for a little while. Not thankfully, but thankfully, she was also going through a divorce and she was living in her house by herself. So she had room for me. And so when I found this house, I actually drove her here because I was nervous about the neighborhood. I was nervous about the area, and I didn't want to make a bad decision. So while the decision was mine and solely mine to make, I did want other people's opinions. Jen was like, no, it's great, it'll be fine. And I was nervous, and she's the one that told me like, well, do you still have your bat? We did this routine in Pole where we danced with bats. And she's like, well, do you still have your bat from Bust the Windows? And I was like, no, I got rid of that bat. I'm not a baseball player. I didn't need a bat. She goes, well, I sleep with my bat under my bed. And I was like, I don't know if I need to go that far. But sure enough, when I bought this sledgehammer to bust out what was it was this glass block. It was like hideous. But I bought a sledgehammer to bust that out right when I moved in. And I did sleep with that sledgehammer by my bed for quite a long time. And when I moved in to set up like cable and all of that stuff, they had a package where they do security system as well. And I was talking to the gal and she's like, yeah, we can come out, set you up with cameras. And I had my really good friend James at work come by and tell me like, yeah, you should put a camera here. He really wanted me to do like Fort Knox type situation. And I think a lot of people were a little bit nervous because I had never lived alone. And did you hear that? Someone's out in the parking lot at the grocery store that's kind of directly behind me, like doing donuts. Yeah. But anyways, I think most of my friends were a little bit nervous about me living alone for the very first time, and then also living in an area that I wasn't really used to. So when James came by, he was like, camera here, camera there, camera there. We gotta get interior cameras, we gotta get these. And I was like, okay, that's really overkill. But when I called cable to set up my cable and my security system, the gal was like, we can come out to do your cable like tomorrow. But as far as setting up your security system, I don't have a guy that can come out for like a month. And I told her, I was like, a month? I could be raped and pillaged by then. Like, you better get out here faster. You know, she laughed and they didn't come out for like a month. So having the alarm and the cameras did make me feel a little bit more secure. And I did eventually move the sledgehammer from my bedside table to the garage. But that doesn't mean that I'm still not a little bit nervous being here by myself at night all the time. In this house, because it's old, it makes noises, like random noises. I'll be laying in my bed with Joe at night and we will just, when the heater kicks on, holy moly, it sounds like someone just dropped a boulder in the house. It startles me and Joe every single time the heater comes on. I'm a little bit used to the heater sound, but just last night I was laying in bed and just like a sound just a sound. I'll be like, what was that? Is someone coming in? And there are times where I have to talk myself off the ledge, like, don't pick up your phone to look at the security camera. It's fine. It was just a house noise. You're gonna be fine. But there have been some times where I was like, no, that definitely sounded like something. And I'll get on my phone because I can see my camera footage through my phone. And I'll be like, is anybody out there? Did I see something? Did something happen? Da, 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 da. So I'm not gonna lie. I have lived in this house for a year by myself, and then Davis came and moved in, and he was with me for about 6 months. But now he has moved out, so I am all alone again. And I think that hearing those noises without having someone else in the house with me does make me a little bit more nervous, a little bit like, heaven forbid I get broken into, but what if I did? What would I do? So I have those things that still run through my head to this day. That is going to take me maybe the whole time I'm living here to even get used to. I don't know if I'll ever get used to it. And I hear myself and it makes me sound super snobby. Like, oh, now you don't live in that rich neighborhood you used to live in. It's not that. It's just like, I never lived without somebody in my house before. I never had like the security blanket of someone else living with me. And that is a huge transition. Yeah, one I don't know if I'll ever get used to. The other thing that comes with divorce that I knew in my head was going to happen, but I just didn't realize like the magnitude of how it would happen. It's like you have this group of friends and you have this extended family that has been in your life for, gosh, like seriously, I was married for 25 years. And before that, we were together for 3 years. So that's 28 years of your in-laws, your sister-in-laws, your brother-in-laws, your nieces and nephews, the aunts and uncles, the cousins. That side of the family was huge. And I never had that huge of a family growing up. So it was kind of fun to have. I'm not saying it was like fun all the time. Believe me, there was like, oh my God, another family thing we've got to go to. There was that. But it was also like, this is my family. I've never had this big of a family before. And it's kind of cool having that many people around you that love you and care for you and those sorts of things. I knew that that wasn't going to be the case anymore, but I was hoping that, there's always that hope that, like, how can people that have been in your life for 28 years just drop you like a hot potato because you're not married to their son or cousin or nephew or whatever anymore? I don't understand that. And yeah, it happened. For the first year, I was invited to Thanksgiving and I was invited to Christmas, which was great. A little bit awkward, but not so much. This year, no invitations. No invitations whatsoever. So not having that family around, or just those people, not that we saw them every day. I mean, they didn't even live in our same town, but they lived like an hour away. That's all gone. And that group of friends that used to always come over to the house, golly, we threw them. I was like the hostess with the mostest. I wanted to be the house that hosted all the parties, and I was. We hosted Christmas parties, birthday parties, 4th of July. My house was always like the party house, and I loved it. Even the mess that it would cause afterwards, I loved it. Yeah, I don't have those friends anymore. It's insane. I'm not saying I don't have any friends. I have friends. I have really good friends. And I guess you could say the friends that are the most important friends are the friends that are still my friends. Those other friends, maybe I put more into the relationship than they did, and maybe I thought the relationship was something that it really wasn't. Some of those friends I had for 20 years, some a little less than, but there are quite a few friends that don't even know where I live because they haven't reached out with any concern as to where I live. So that still is taking some getting used to. Just those people that were around you for so long that just aren't anymore for whatever reason. And I just don't think that divorce should be the reason. Like, I didn't do anything. We're just not married anymore. Like, that's kind of difficult. But again, I do have some super great friends. I mean, my pole girls, teacher Jen, John, James at my work, Shannon. Oh, and I got some really good news, maybe some good news the other day. My friend Nikki, I used to pole with her and we got along so well. She got married and they had to move because her husband got a fellowship in Philadelphia. So they had to move to Philadelphia. I did visit her there. Me and Nikki are just outside the Declaration House where Thomas Jefferson penned the Declaration of Independence. And Nikki stumbled across this.
They took them. They're gone.
Son of a bitch. And then, he got a job in Alaska. So right now she's living in Alaska. But she called me the other day and there's a possibility that they may be moving back. So I might get my friend Nikki back, so that's good. But really the biggest hurdles for me living alone for the very first time in my entire life is the actual act of living alone, getting used to that, and then just kind of coming to the realization like the people that were in my life for so long are no longer in my life. And it's like, fuck, man. Oh, I'm 50. Ain't nobody trying to make new friends. And it's like, how do you even go make new friends? What am I gonna do? Is there some like old people singles bar that's just for friendships? I don't know. And if there is, I'm not going there. But then it's like, I want this house to be the party house too. I mean, I have friends. I'm saying in the broad generalization of the term, I don't have any friends. I don't have any friends to invite to a party. I mean, it's not much of a party if you only got 3 people. So that kind of sucks. But I know it's not really sucky, I guess, but getting used to, for sure, 100% doing everything yourself. There's no one to holler at, like, hey, can you come help me hold this frame, or I need help with it. Like, I'll tell you, one of the biggest things was the roof on my Jeep. Oy, oy, oy. My Jeep, obviously I can take off my roof and my doors. Well, the roof is in 3 parts. There's a front section where it's like kind of like a T-top, which is super easy for me to take off all by myself. Super lightweight, not a big deal. But the whole back half of the roof, it 100% takes 2 people to do. 100%. Because you need 1 person on each side of it. Number 1, it's heavy. Number 2, you gotta lift it and walk it like down the whole like bed of the truck. I physically cannot do it by myself. I called Davis over to help me take the roof off the first time. And then I remember I woke up one day, I had no roof on, and I woke up and it was fucking raining. I was like, holy shit, I have to go to work and it's goddamn raining and I have no roof on. I called James from my work. It's like 7:30 in the morning. He doesn't pick up. I was like, shit. So then I had to call John, who doesn't need to be to work until 8:30. Can you please come over right now and help me put this roof on? Otherwise, I'm not gonna be able to drive to work because I'm gonna get rained on the whole way. So what I ended up having to do so that I could be self-sufficient in that way, I ended up buying this wench that you mount to the roof of your garage or the ceiling of your garage. And then you just like hook up some cables and then you just spin this thing and it lifts the roof off all by itself and puts it down all by itself. So now I can be a one-woman show when I want to take off or put on the roof of my Jeep. So that's good. Rigging ways to like do that all by myself has been a little bit of a transition, but not a hard one. I feel like I've been pretty self-sufficient all my life. Any DIYs that I do or anything that I normally do, I can pull off by myself. But there are just some things that, you know, being a girl, being 50 years old aside, you just physically can't do as a one-person situation. So that has taken a little bit of time getting used to. And then it's like, I don't want to constantly be calling someone to come over, running over to my neighbors to say, can you help me with this? Figuring out like how to be 100% self-sufficient. I mean, that's still going on. Like, how can I do this by myself and get it taken care of by myself? But I think I'm doing pretty good so far. And you know, people ask like, do you get lonely? I don't think I'm lonely right now, at least. I think I'm actually relishing the fact that I'm living alone for the very first time in my entire life. I've never lived alone. It's like peaceful, quiet, and I like it. So far I'm not lonely. Also too, like Davis comes over, John's over here a lot. I'll go out with teacher Jen. Maybe the longer I live here, I might feel some loneliness, but as of right now, not so much. And plus, I'm staying super busy trying to do things in this house to make it the house that I want to live in. That's what really sucks, because every day I complete a project in this house, I'm loving this house more and more and more and more. And I know this is not going to be my forever house because I can't live here until I die in this neighborhood. And I know I'm making it sound like this is the shittiest neighborhood on the planet, and believe me, it is not the shittiest neighborhood on the planet by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just still getting used to my surroundings, and I am no longer in that little bubble that I used to live in for so long. But it's not the straight up hood, but it is taking me some time getting used to. That's all I'm saying. I wish I could just pick this house up and move it somewhere else because I'm making it look so cute. Oh my gosh, that bedroom makeover looks so cute. But anyways, I got sidetracked. As far as like the negatives of living alone, it's not terrible. It's taking a little bit of getting used to, but it's not super bad. Again, I don't feel lonely. I think the biggest thing is making myself not get so nervous when I hear like a loud thud in the house, or trying to figure out how to hold a heavy board and mount it into a wall with this side like dangling down and not having an extra set of hands to help me. That's the biggest thing I've been getting used to. But honestly, there are some positive things I'm finding living alone. For one, I can do whatever I want whenever I want. And not that I didn't do whatever I want whenever I wanted before, but just out of common courtesy, or living with somebody else, if you want to paint a wall bright orange, it's just common courtesy to be like, hey, I'm thinking about painting this wall bright orange. What are your thoughts? Anything I want to do. And before, believe me, anything I wanted to do in my house before, I did it. But I always ran it by the other person. And sometimes the other person wasn't on board. I still did it, but now I don't have to hear it. I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea. Maybe we should pick a different color. Why are you wanting to paint that wall at all? Why do you want to rip out the carpet? That seems like a lot of hard work. Why should we even do it? It's fine the way it is. Now I don't have to hear any of it. I just go out and do it. I don't run it by anybody, get it done. I don't have to hear one word about it. And in the end, I step back and I love it. The other thing is, I don't feel like a maid in my own house. I walk into this house and it's always clean. If there's a dirty dish in the sink, it's probably one dirty dish and it's my dirty dish. And I take care of it and put it in the dishwasher. Before, golly, I hated the way I sounded. You know, coming home to like a sink full of dirty dishes or the trash not being emptied or shit all over the family room and constantly being like, fuck, seriously, you don't see the dishes? Like, I was a constant broken record of a bitch. Like, all the time. I felt like I was constantly cleaning up after everybody. And 9 times out of 10, it wasn't even my mess. And it's so nice to just come home to a house the way you left it. I love that so much. I mean, look around. It's clean. And I came right home from work. That is amazing. That's the best part ever. Yeah, so there are perks, I think, to living alone. But again, I've never lived alone. So I feel like I'm living my like college age, first apartment type of a vibe. And maybe that has to do a lot with the fact why I am not feeling lonely right now, because I'm still kind of on that high of like, hell yeah, I live alone. I can just sit in the quiet of my nice, clean house and it's nice. Maybe that will get old after a while and I might start becoming lonely, but right now, I kind of like it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I talk to Joe a lot. I talk to Joe a lot. We're always having, well, he's not talking back, but I'm always having conversations with Joe. He greets me at the door right when I walk in from work. We run into my room. He jumps on the bed. I pet him. I ask him about his day. I tell him all of the things we need to get done today. Maybe that is me being a little bit lonely. I guess not having someone to talk to all the time could kind of maybe get a little bit lonely. So it is a lot of alone time, but I guess I'm making up for all that time that I was never alone. I guess that's the way I'm looking at it. I guess that's what's keeping me from feeling lonely. So yeah, that. And I guess really, if I had to like put my finger, which is gonna, I mean, it's gonna sound like what it sounds like and it's gonna sound bad, but whatever. The worst part actually about living alone is the lack of financial freedom. Honestly, when you have someone else, when you're in a 2-income family, and you know, you need to get new tires. Like I literally just had to buy new tires for the truck, and new tires are not cheap. Not the big old kind of ones I wanted for my Jeep. Before it was like, oh, I need new tires, go get new tires, didn't matter. But now it's like, fuck, I need to get new tires. Okay, so, and I don't like to put things on credit. If I can get away with not using my credit card, I will. Because I had been in financial troubles in my life. Like house getting almost foreclosed on, car 100% getting repossessed. I have been in financial woes before. Remember how I said we were poor living in a shitty ass condo? We were poor living in a shitty ass condo. So I try my best not to use my credit card for things. So I try to save up money. I try not to spend money I don't have. That's kind of been a little bit of an eye-opening experience, because anything that goes wrong that is a major expense, I have to take care of all by myself, and that's a little difficult. Not being able to share in the financial situations to take a little bit of the burden off of those financial situations. That one's probably the toughest, honestly. Don't get me wrong, we were not spending frivolously, but having to buy a set of tires was nothing that we were like, oh shit, I guess we can't eat. We're only eating top ramen for the next month because we have to buy new tires. That was never the case. But now it kind of feels like it is the case. I'll be real honest with you. I did always envision. You know, when you go to a wedding and they sometimes do that dance where they'll bring out all of the married couples onto the dance floor and they'll play a song. The DJ will be like, if you've been married for more than 5 years, stay on the dance floor. And anybody who's been married for less than 5 years has to leave the dance floor. If you've been married for more than 10 years, stay on the dance floor. And anybody who's been married for less than 10 years gets off the dance floor. I've always envisioned being that old married couple that got to stay on the dance floor for the very longest amount of time. And the thing is that we were almost that couple. And it was down to like 4 couples, and then we got booted off by an older couple. Point of the story is I always envisioned my life being that old couple that stayed on the dance floor until the bitter end, and now I know that's not a possibility. That's sad to me. Is it sad to me not having someone to share your life with? Kind of, I guess. Because, you know, I have people around me that I can share my life with. Anything good that happens, anything bad that happens, I can call up John or Teacher Jen or Nikki or any of those people and talk with them about it. But I guess I don't have somebody that they're like responsible for that. Like on paper, you are responsible for sharing in Sheri's life. I don't have that. So in a way, it's a little bit sad. I mean, those friends that I do have, I cherish them, and I'm gonna continue to cherish them and hold them very, 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 very close to me, because what little friends I do have, that's my family now. I need to keep those people close to me and around me just so that I do have people to share my life with and to make it feel like I am not lonely. I think that's taken a little bit of the sadness away from that. But yeah, if those people ever leave me, yeah, I'll be screwed, because then it will just be me and Joe. Well, and Davis. He can't leave me. He's my kid. I do have people to share my life with. I just don't have that one particular person to share my life with anymore. And that's okay. That's okay. But yeah, living by myself for the first time in my entire life at 50 years old. I know no one can believe it. They're like, are you serious? Like, you have never lived alone? Nope, never. Never have lived alone, ever. And it's kind of fun. I keep myself busy. DIYs, decorating, painting, that sort of stuff makes me happy. If I am feeling ever a little bit sad, I'll just be like, well, you know what you gotta do? You gotta go finish that kitchen. Or you know what you gotta do? You gotta go paint that wall. And then that snaps me out of any sadness I was even considering feeling. Yeah, I'm just like living the single girl life in my own house with Joe, just living it up. And people have asked me like, oh, are you gonna start dating? I don't know. Not right now, for sure, not right now. I need to get some alone time under my belt. I just wanna like be alone for a little bit. I've been around people, be it my mom, my husband, my kid, all my life. And so I'm trying to just take this time being by myself to actually truly be by myself. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of fun. Is that bad to say that I'm kind of having fun, like living by myself? I'm having my own alone fun, but it's still fun nonetheless. Is that bad? I hope it's not bad. I don't think it's bad. I think we all should have fun. We should all experience living alone for a little bit of time, I think. And I don't think I ever really thought that until now that I'm alone. I live alone. It's just me and Joe. And I'm kind of having fun with it. And that doesn't mean I am not sad that my marriage of 25 years is no longer. Yes, I'm definitely sad about that, but it was for the best. We are both much happier people for it. I mean, golly, we're together since I've been 18 years old. Props to those people who met when they were in high school, they were high school sweethearts, and they're still married to this day. It's tough, man. You meet someone so young and you're a certain person then, and over time, you develop and morph into this other older person. And while you would love to do that and grow and change together, that doesn't necessarily always happen. And while I still have love and will always love my now ex-husband, we just didn't need to be married anymore. Really, yeah. Could we have stayed married? 100%. Life was fine, but I just don't think each of us was as happy as we could have been and probably are now. I will always be sad about that, but I am not sad that I am alone, if that makes any sort of sense. I just think this is a whole new, wonderful chapter in my life that who knows what's gonna happen. I mean, at this point, I just can't help but think like the world is my oyster. Like there's nothing stopping me. Who knows what's gonna happen? It's wide open from here. And I'm gonna just take it one day at a time and make the best of what I've got. I just can't help but think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. And maybe sometimes there'll be some woes and some sadness. And sometimes I'll have to go to my neighbor or phone a friend and be like, I need help with this. But just figuring it out along the way is fun in itself. I just can't wait for these next few years. Who knows what it will bring? And it's kind of exciting to think that, you know, new stuff is on the horizon. I don't know what that new stuff is, but whatever it is, I'm here for it. So, yay. So there you have it, and there it is. The elephant in the room has been addressed. I was married, and I'm no longer married, and now I live alone. If you guys have gone through that, you were married and you're no longer married, and the transition of like living alone and finding a place to live, and are you lonely? And if so, what do you do to combat that? Like, hopefully some of my little stories help, or you can relate to, or they resonate with you in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. I just think that together as a This Is Real Life community, we can be here for each other. And maybe one day I will be extra lonely and you'll see me get on here and I'll be like, you guys, I feel so alone. And you guys will be there to like give me suggestions or tips, or here's what I did, you know, when I was feeling extra lonely. And I hope I can be that person for you as well. We'll just grow and change and be old and lonely together. I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be great. I think we're gonna learn, you know what? I'm gonna learn a lot about myself over these next years. How do I handle loneliness if I do get lonely? And how do I handle making new friends or not making new friends, or getting used to the fact that the friends that I used to have, I no longer have. The family that I used to have, I no longer have anymore. I don't know. Let's just take it day by day. That's all we can do. So, I don't have anything more to say. I think I talked this subject to death, but I did want to do a video on this because you guys have been really good to me and very supportive of me, and I felt like while I am still going to keep my personal things personal, I'm not gonna be, you know, the person that's like, I'm pregnant, follow me through my pregnancy, come into the hospital, here's my baby coming out of my vagina. No, some things are better kept to yourself. But I did feel like since you guys have been so supportive and so loving and just always there and in the comments, and you know, a lot of you guys have been there since day one, and you saw like clearly the transition, and I just never acknowledged there was a transition. It was like, oh yeah, what do you mean? I mean, I know I said I lived in a new house, but I never actually really said like why I live in a new house. I know we're not getting into deep details about it, but I just thought, yeah, it's probably about time. You've been living by yourself for a year. You should probably talk about it a little bit. I mean, here's the deal. I am so private. There are still people in my life that don't even know I'm divorced. Because there's part of me that's like, it's none of their business. The people who need to know. So yeah, I wanted to do a video on me living alone for the very first time in my life. And maybe, just maybe, there are some of you that are going through the same thing. And hopefully this video helped you a little bit if you are feeling lonely. And hopefully you will realize that it's not all bad. It's not gonna be bad forever. Are there things that we're gonna have to get used to that we never had to get used to before? Yeah, but are those things maybe exciting? Maybe. I just think we're good. We can do it. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. So if you like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Be sure to ring that notification bell so that you are alerted to all of the Real Life Friday videos I push out, which is every other Friday at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. Be sure to share this video with your family and friends. And as always, thanks for hanging out.